Bev Kassel. I'm 53 years old. I don't work, I'm stay at home. My husband's obviously with me, my daughter still lives at home, and my son is out of the house. I've got kids of 26 and 28 years of age. I went for a regular mammogram. They told me 24 hours later to say no, the cells are atypical. Better come in and do a biopsy. And then I knew. I was actually okay with it. I'm quite a realistic person. What is meant to be will be, and I had to deal with it. But yeah, it is a shock to the system. It always, you never think it's going to happen to you. Yeah, and it took about 3 days, and then I found out it was. From there, she recommended a team of, because I wanted to have reconstruction done. So she recommended a surgeon who I knew. He'd worked on the family at Linksfield, and he worked together with a plastic surgeon from the Parklanes. So I had to wait 6 weeks in order to get a date when they could do it together. She could come to the Linksfield, and that was probably the hardest, was those 6 weeks waiting to have the op, waiting for everything to start. And at that stage, they said to me they would remove the lump and I wouldn't have to have anything. It was isolated, there'd be no problems. The night before the op, they take you in to do a nuclear scan to see where it is. They put the isotopes in, and in that short 6 weeks it had travelled up to the gland and into the bloodstream. So when I had the op, I then got the news that I had to have chemotherapy, I wasn't expecting that, so that was difficult. And difficult for the family. I think people, always feel sorry for the patient, they don't realise the impact it has on everyone around them. It's hard on them. I decided right from the beginning, I made up my mind, I knew, I read and asked questions and knew what all the side effects were. So I made up my mind, I am going to be sick. I didn't fool myself in any way, I was very realistic about it, and I'm going to deal with it that way. And what I tried to make sure was that I had something every day to do. Go play bridge. There were days I went to bridge with a mask on because my bloods were low and my eyes were infected and I was feeling sick, but I made myself every day do something, go shopping with my mom or dad, because it's too easy to just climb in the bed and feel, you feel awful. So I made sure there was something every day to do, and people were astounded. They say, are you really having chemo? Like I was lying about it, but it just made the effort. I think you have to be positive from the outset. They gave me tablets for nausea. I did suffer with nausea. Of course, the nausea tablets cause terrible constipation, so then you'll end up having to take stuff to try and move your stomach. It's a nightmare. It's this circle of things. This helps with that, but causes that. So it wasn't easy. I had 2 weeks infusion in a row, the Monday and then the following Monday, and I was taking cancer tablets every night for 2 weeks of the month. So for those 2 weeks, I always had it done at the beginning of the month, were really a write-off. The cancer tablets actually made me feel more normal. Every single day was like. But then I would have a week where I felt fairly good, time to recoup and go for the next one. So, but yeah, there was always, and I made sure from the word go I took vitamin B, vitamin E, and evening primrose oil, and I think that helped me even before the op, just helped with recovery. I mean, my op was a walk in the park. The mastectomy, I was up and going and never affected me at all, the actual op. So those were mainly things, and I ate, I used to find things like soup and crackers, because you're sick, eat small amounts more often. But I never went overboard. I never worried about special diets. I tried to carry on my life exactly as it was as much as possible, because I think that's important. I think it helps you get through. I had so many scans at the beginning of the year and x-rays with all of this that eventually your limits are exceeded. So the next time you had to see a doctor, even for a cold or my husband, there was no money left there. The medicines we exceeded the limits already by April, so there's extra payments out there. The blood tests, we reached our limit. So there's always, in these kind of things, the oncology was fine, the oncology itself was covered, and I had quite a good amount on that. But there's always these extras, the other things that the limits just don't cope with it. And so, yeah, there's always this, it's not just the emotional burden and the physical, it's always that financial burden on a family, because there are incurred costs. You can't help it. I never have had a day's problem, I have to be honest, because then I paid my policy. When this all occurred and I phoned to tell the guys, I had the claim forms within I think it was the same day virtually, or the next morning, was sent to me. Filled them out, sent them to you, had the money within, I think it was 10 days, was paid to my account. In fact, a model for service excellence. The service was unbelievable. And it just, you know what, it made things so much easier because you're under so much stress. I know I had problems with the medical aid where they approved my oncology and then they didn't want to pay for 3 months. And fighting, and you actually don't need that. You've got so much else. So to deal with a company who did what they said they would do and more, and actually understood what you're going through. And I mean, the gifts to that box was just, it's a thoughtful box. It's obviously been research done and understand what a patient going through that actually needs, the pajamas and the slippers and the hat and the scarf. So it was a wonderful experience. I have recommended, I've told people all over, even if it doesn't help. It was just a remarkable service experience in a country where service is really not this exemplified. Okay, well, I actually handed it over to my husband at the time, and we've used it to pay for extra medical expenses. So it helped me, with this comes a whole lot of guilt, because you feel guilty, not that it's your fault you got sick, but guilty what you're putting your family through, because you can see the stress they're going through and how it affects them. So for me it was relief to say, well, here's this to pay all the extra medical bills, and we're actually using the balance we need to paint the house on that badly. So that's where it's going to. I think cancer is rampant at the moment. I have now subsequently met so many people. I think it's much more prevalent than it ever used to be. When you ask the doctors why, they insist it's only because of their diagnostic techniques. But I don't believe so. I think there's a lot to do with the hormones in the food, the radiation from cell phones. There's something in our lifestyle, I think the stress we're under, that cancer is on the increase. And really for a couple of R100 a month to give you the peace of mind when it happens that you've got that extra money, so you don't have to worry about medical expenses, you can just worry about getting yourself better. It's a huge thing. I really would recommend people think seriously about it.